All right, I'm going to do a voiceover on the occupational adaptation model. It was developed by Jeanette Schkady and Sally Schultz, both faculty members at the Texas Women's University. OA was developed to guide practice, and it was also used heavily in research. So Texas Women's University is a research institution, and so a lot of research has been put out there for OA and in using it also. Major contribution of OA is to facilitate occupational therapy intervention, using a theoretical base to drive that intervention. And overall, the goal of OA is to improve OT practice. So there are three things that are constant in the occupational adaptation model. The first is the person, and on the other side is the environment. So the two things that are constant, the two things that are interacting, which I think is an answer in your study guide, is the person and the environment. So again, there's that interaction that occurs between the person and the environment, which is nothing new. You've been getting that in a lot of the other models of practice. Just to kind of give you a visual, so we have a person on one side and we have the environment on the other. So when a person is interacting in their environment, there creates this press for mastery, because as people, as persons, we desire to do well, okay? We desire to master what it is that we're doing, right? As students, you want to do well in your courses, I hope. When I get myself ready in the morning, I try and I desire to look as presentable as I can be. On the other side, there's a demand for mastery on the environment. The environment places demands upon us. Whether it is super hot outside, okay, that's going to demand how I get dressed. If it's icy outside on the roads, that's going to create a demand for me to change how I drive. So when the person and the environment interact, it creates this press. Looking on the far left side of your visual diagram, we're going to talk about the person. Okay, there are three parts to the person. There is a sensory motor component, which looks at how we feel, how we move. There's a cognitive component, how we learn, how we think. And then there's a psychosocial component as well, which is how we interact with others. All three of these components have a genetic influence. Okay, so one's passed down genetically from parent to child. There's an environmental influence, meaning the environment influences us based on maybe how we dress, depending on the weather. And then there's a phenomenological influence as well. Again, phenomenological could be something that's not biological in nature, or that's not created per se by the environment. So it could be the political realm of maybe new laws being put into place that's going to affect a person. Maybe any social issues as well could be phenomenological. So as occupational therapists, we need to pay attention to all three parts of the person: the sensory motor, the cognitive, the psychosocial, so that we can provide a holistic intervention looking at the whole person, again, like some of the other models we've talked about. As I've showed you on the diagram, the person is considered constant, as the person is always there, and that person wants to do well. They have a desire for mastery. Again, here's kind of a visual on the chart. We have the person. They have that desire for mastery, which stems down to the person. The person has three components: the sensory motor part, the cognitive part, and the psychosocial part. On the other side of your diagram, on the far right-hand side, there's the occupational environment. There are three environments. There's work, play, work, play, leisure, and self-care. So again, this sounds very familiar with some of the models we've heard in the past. These environments, your work or your occupational environment, your work, play, leisure, self-care, is unique to each person. It's influenced by your physical self, your social self, and your cultural self. Your physical subsystem includes any time, space, materials, as far as your environment goes. Your social subsystem is looking at your interpersonal interactions within a particular setting, in a particular group. And your cultural subsystem looks at your values, morals, ethics, your standards, your rules, how you communicate. It's your, quote, rules of the road on how you're expected to function. And this is the occupational environment, how it places demands on us. And in those environments are going to be our environments at work, while we're playing or having leisure, or during our self-care tasks.